How's your little one?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 10th, 2020 Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Kincaid, absent.
Excused.
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Copeland.
Here.
Councilmember Wheat.
Present.
Councilwoman Messenger.
Present.
Okay, we will not have approval of the minutes tonight. They were not ready, so we'll take those up at our next meeting. The first item up we have tonight is Lulman Fire Department swearing in of Noah Rinker to the rank of lieutenant. So, Deputy Chief Wire, if you want to come forward.
Good evening to everyone here. Noah Rinker has been a firefighter with us for 6 years, and through a competitive process, he is being promoted to lieutenant. This is the first council meeting that we could get him in to do his swearing in and his pinning, and I think he's going to be joined by his wife and son up here to get sworn in. No, you could take your mask off for the pictures and stuff like that.
You're not.
And then repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Noah Rinker,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana
and all laws and ordinances
and all laws and ordinances
of the City of Lebanon.
of the City of Lebanon,
And I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as Lieutenant of the Lebanon Fire Department
as Lieutenant of the Lebanon Fire Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Then you have to give us a speech.
I just wanted to thank all the guys that I've worked with over the last few years, all the chiefs for giving me the opportunity. I'm not from this area, but I've fallen in love with the town of Lebanon, and I look forward to my opportunities going forward and hopefully grow as a leader and continue to grow as a firefighter and as a person. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Okay, if you're here for the swearing in, we'll pause. If you want to leave, feel free. Or you can stay. We have a very exciting agenda tonight. Always make that offer to everybody.
Didn't sell it.
Wasn't a good
We're doing some obligation bonds, land exchange, some rezones. No? No takers? All
I
right.
mean, if we're allowed to leave, no.
All right. Did my best. I did my best. All right. With that, then we'll move on to old business. First item up I have here is Ordinance 2021-27, which is, again, so from last year, City of Lebanon obligation bonds of 2022, the street department garage, and this ordinance is on second reading. Kevin or Julie, either one? I know Kevin, if you wanted to present it.
Thank you. I don't think I have anything really to add, other than maybe just to update you. We opened bids for the street garage earlier tonight. The lowest apparent bidder was at $4.6 million for all alternates included. So that is right where we needed it to be to fit in with the bond structure that we've been proposing. And if there's not any questions, I will just turn this over to council for the second reading.
Okay. Any questions for Kevin or for bond counsel at this time? Okay. Rob, could you read the ordinance, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council.
Ordinance 2021-27, again, concerns the issuance and sale of bonds, appropriating the proceeds derived from the sale of the bonds. That in this ordinance, as you recall, is about 20 pages, and so I'm just going to hit the highlights. The estimates, the cost of the project, including expenses, are in the amount of $5,810,000. The council finds that it does not have sufficient funds available in the existing budget, which may be applied to the cost of the project. So again, the amount of the bonds are not to exceed $5,810,000 for the purposes of procuring funds to be applied to pay all or any portions for the cost of the project. There's some detail that gets on page 2 that goes through various costs and the outstanding debt of the city. Section 1 then talks about the declaration of intent and authorization and the detail of the bonds. Again, amount not to exceed $5,810,000. That goes on for several pages till we get to the form of the bond on page 8, and that will show you what, again, the template of the bond will look like. That's included on pages 9 and 10 as well, and 11. And then we get on page 12, we discuss the sale of bonds and the notice of publications that are to occur pursuant to Indiana code. On page 14, we talk about the preparation of the bonds and defeasance in section 5. We talk about on page 15 the covenant to levy tax in the bond payment fund, as well as the tax covenants and representations. And those are all set forth in detail. There's continuing disclosure referenced on page 17, and that the city represents in covenants that the bonds will not exceed the city's debt limit. Again, the section 11 addresses the additional appropriation of the amount not to exceed $5,810,000. And the effective date of the ordinance and should be in full force and effect from and after its adoptions as required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any discussion from council at this time? Questions? Thoughts? Okay. At this time then, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2021-27. If you have any public comment, please step forward. Do state your name for the record. Seeing no sudden movements, I will close the public hearing on ordinance 2021-27. Final discussion, thoughts, questions from council? Okay. This time then, I would entertain a motion concerning ordinance 2021-27.
Make a motion, we accept ordinance 21-27.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second from Councilman Wheat. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Ordinance 2021-27 is adopted unanimously. Thank you, council. Okay, next up is resolution 2021-32, again, also from last year as well. This is concerning the Kins Food Land Exchange and also the regional detention. Kevin, we have you up here as this one as well.
Thank you. We discussed this last time, but it was tabled, so thank you for the opportunity to discuss this again. I would also want to introduce one of the audience members, John Stewart, which is the plant manager for Ken's Foods, has joined us here. We've been working with John and Judy Embry and others at Ken's Foods and really appreciate their willingness to talk to us about this. So essentially, we need about 15 more acres to complete our middle regional detention pond. And over the last 2 years, Ken's has purchased land to their southern border. And that land to the south is also adjacent to the Phase 1 regional detention system that we constructed, in 17 and 18. And so we've been talking to them because the western 15 acres of that is really adjacent to the pond and is essentially non-developable because it's in the floodplain. non-developable for vertical building construction, for commercial construction, for if and when Ken's decides to expand their facility. So we went ahead and, working with them, we got 2 appraisals. The average of our 2 appraisals was approximately $11,730 per acre, which makes for a total of the 15 acres of roughly $176,000. There's a bit of a gap there from what Ken's paid for the land versus what our appraisals show that we can pay for the land. And but Ken's is willing to go forward with the sale at our appraised value with some good faith efforts and commitments on our part that at some point in the future, when they are looking to expand, that we would find a way to make up that $260,000 gap, if you will. So what we're here tonight is just to discuss and get your opinion on this and hopefully take action on it. But what we would like to propose is that we buy 15 acres from Ken's Foods for the regional detention facilities at about $176,000, and that we make some commitments to them that we will seek efforts to fill that gap to the $260,000 value that they had set of the land at some point in the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to council.
Any questions for Kevin from council at this time? Any questions for John? Or John, do you want to say anything, or you just wave me off if you're fine too?
I'm fine. I just want to speak, but just that we can support this.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, with that then, I'll have Rob read the resolution 2021-32, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This resolution authorizes the acquisition of real property. The council has determined that a need exists for the city's acquisition of approximately 15.23 acres of real property located at 1350 Middle Jamestown Road, Lebanon, Indiana, and that's depicted on Exhibit A. The council is interested in purchasing the property as part of the city's regional detention project. 2 independent appraisals of the property have been obtained pursuant to Indiana code. The city desires to purchase the property for the project at a price not to exceed the average of those appraisals, as Mr. Krulik just discussed. Therefore, the council states that it is interested in purchasing the property as depicted on Exhibit A, and such property will be used as part of the project and for all lawful purposes. The appraisals of the property that you've received are hereby accepted and approved, and all actions taken by the city staff and representatives or legal counsel prior to the date of this resolution are hereby ratified. The city instructs the city's authorized representatives and attorneys to negotiate and purchase the property for a price which does not exceed the average of those appraisals, and take all steps necessary to consummate the transaction. The mayor of the city is authorized to execute and deliver all of the agreements that are contemplated by this resolution, and this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Now the resolution has been read. Is there any additional questions, discussion, comment from council? Kevin, so at our Board of Works meeting, we adopted a resolution that did a property swap with New Cold. Would these 2 essentially purchases complete what we would need to do for the regional detention?
Yes, exactly. That's the intention there. So the New Cold swap really squares up property there. Basically we're swapping 8 acres for 10 acres. And that squares up the property lines between us and New Cold. And we were originally going to go further north with the pond, but New Cold needed that land for their development. And so this is just the next best option, which is to go further south, which, to be honest, I think is a better option because we end up then purchasing floodplain that doesn't impede any future development opportunity in the area.
I guess the other question too, funding source for this?
We have a bond, or not a bond in place, we have a fund in place for the regional detention system, but I will say that fund is pretty well depleted. I think it's in the order of about $30,000 left in the fund. What I would propose is to to take a resolution to the RDC. Actually, the Ken's property is beginning to pay property taxes this year, so we will have the revenue from Ken's Foods, the tax increment that will be generated by Ken's Foods that would then be allowed to be used towards this project.
Any additional questions? Any public comment? Okay. This time then I would entertain a motion concerning Resolution 2021-32.
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 2021-32, the Ken's Foods Land Exchange.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second from Councilman Copeland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is adopted unanimously. Thank you, council. Okay, that concludes what I have for new business. Thank you, Kevin. That concludes what I have for an old business. Is there any other old business from the council? Okay, new business then. Do I have consent to take the agenda slightly out of order? We have some guests here that I thought we could have them go first, if that's okay. Consent? Consent? Okay. We'll move item C up then first. This is Resolution 2022-02, the Lebanon Common Council approving real and property tax abatement deductions for Hachette Book Group. And we have Claire from the Boone County Economic Development Corporation.
Thank you. Again, my name is Claire Collette, and I'm with the Boone EDC. I'm also here with Andy Lestage from Stag Industrial Group. And we had an Hachette member coming, but she is sick today, so it's just us two today. Hachette Book Group and the property owner, Stag Industrial Holdings, they are requesting incentives for a potential expansion project of 164,000 square feet to their existing facility at 121 North Enterprise in the Lebanon Business Park. This expansion project will focus on increasing their warehouse space. It will add 25 new employees with an average wage of $20 an hour, exclusive of benefits, and it will have an estimated $20.7 million capital investment, and that includes both real and personal property investment. So Hachette opened its facility in the Lebanon Business Park in 2014, and they currently employ they currently employ 490 employees, making them one of the larger employers in the business park. We are recommending today that the council consider a 7-year real property abatement for Stag Industrial Holdings, and they are the building owner. And so you'll start at the 100% for year 1, year 2 is at 75%, years 3 and 4 is at 50%, 5 and 6 is at 25%, and that 7 is at 10%. And you can see that schedule on page 3 of the resolution too. We also recommend that you consider a 5-year personal property tax abatement with a 20% step down between years 1 through 4 and a 10% step down for year 5 for Hachette Book Group. Based upon these numbers we provided, we anticipate a $2.1 million benefit for the city of Lebanon for this expansion project. Andy, do you want anything else that you'd like to add at all? No? Okay. So I'll turn it over to council.
Thank you, Claire. Any questions for Claire at this time from the council? Okay, quiet group tonight. Okay, Rob, do you mind reading the resolution for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This resolution 2022-02 concerns certain real property tax abatement deductions and personal property as discussed for Hachette Book Group, Inc. This council adopted Resolution 95-12 on October 23rd, 1995, and Resolution 07-07 on June 25th, 2007. Those are defined as declaratory resolutions that comprise approximately 130 plus or minus acres within the Lebanon Business Park as an economic revitalization area. This council, after following the applicable procedures pursuant to Indiana law, took final action adopting resolutions 95-13 on November 13th, 1995, and resolutions 07-07A on July 7th of 2007 that confirmed the declaratory resolutions. Hachette Book Group, Inc., the applicant, has advised the council, as discussed a few minutes ago, that it intends to expand its facility located in the area commonly known as 121 North Enterprise Boulevard, and more particularly described in Exhibits A and Exhibits B. The council, or the applicant, has submitted to the council a statement of benefits, SB1/RP, and a statement of benefits for personal property, SB-1/PP. Collectively, those are the statements. Those were attached to Exhibit C. And again, as described, the real estate will construct approximately 164,000 square foot expansion that's defined in here as the facility, and then all of this, again, as well as the equipment, is defined as the project. Without, again, going through everything verbatim, this council needs to determine and find that the proposed project will be located in an area which has been confirmed as an economic revitalization area pursuant to Indiana law. The estimate value of the applicant's project shown on the statements is reasonable. The estimate of the number of individuals who will be employed as a result of the proposed project can reasonably be expected to result from this project. The estimate of the annual salaries of those individuals who will be employed can reasonably be expected to result from this proposed project. The benefits described in the statements can reasonably be expected to result from this proposed project, and the totality of the benefits for this proposed project is sufficient to justify the real property and personal property tax deductions. And again, those were set forth a few minutes ago. And I won't repeat those verbatim. But this resolution shall be filed with the Boone County Assessor and shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption.
Thank you, Rob. Now the resolution has been read. Any further discussion? Questions, comments? Any public comment? All a good thing? Okay. At this time then, I would entertain a motion concerning Resolution 2022-02.
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 2022-02, the approving the real and property tax abatement deduction for a Hatchet Book Group.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second from Councilman Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Resolution 2022-02 is adopted unanimously. Thank you, Council. All right, and thank you, Claire. Okay, back to the regularly scheduled agenda. Next up will be Ordinance 2022-01. Council to consider rezone for 1245 West State Road 32, Golden Eagle Management LLC, and Ben has this introduction.
Good evening, Council. This is the first of two rezones that's on your agenda tonight for the first reading. I'll go do a quick overview for you here. I'm going to bring up the screen here that 1245 West State Road 32 is the existing Econo Lodge property that you see represented and outlined here in yellow along State Road 32. Interesting about it, the representative of the property owner came to us a few months ago and said that they were looking for additional ways to capitalize on the building that's existing there with other commercial uses. And then also they have this residual piece down here at the south end of their property that is currently undeveloped that they would like to be able to market for additional commercial uses. So the interesting thing here is the entire business park is all zoned plain business industrial, including this commercial area that's out here closest to the interstate, even though it's primarily commercial uses. The plain business industrial zoning district does allow some commercial uses, but not as extensive of a list as would be from the plain business commercial zoning district. So in talking with the property owner, we recommend that it made most sense to go ahead and rezone this property from plain business industrial to plain business commercial to allow them some additional flexibility in terms of the commercial uses that are permitted for this, which is essentially a commercial property. The other reason we talked about that is this residual piece here is about 0.6, maybe 0.7 acres. It doesn't come anywhere close to meeting a minimum lot size requirement for plain business industrial, and it's really not feasible for an industrial development anyway. It's too small. So in order for them really to even have any value to this property at all, this rezone will help them do that and allow them to look at some additional commercial uses. But they are in terms of, they're limited in terms of whether, we're not talking about an extensive commercial development. This is 0.6, 0.7 acres. We're talking about a very small maybe fast food. Most fast food are looking for at least 0.75 to 1 acre, so it could be a small fast food or some other small shop like that that would be able to fit and meet all of the parking requirements, et cetera. So this does allow them to do that. Again, as I mentioned, this is the first reading tonight, and then we'll come back to you the next meeting for the second reading and potential adoption of the ordinance. And I do have the property owner here if there are any specific questions you have that I can't answer about the rezone or what his intentions are, plans are that he's considering for the property. He is here to answer any questions for you if you do have them for him.
Okay. Any questions from council for Ben at this time?
So what would be some new permitted uses if we did the rezone?
So right now, the list in Plain Business Industrial, hotels are obviously permitted and then restaurants, but that's beyond that, there's really nothing else. And our ordinance actually divides commercial uses up into a variety of different use categories. So beauty salons and all those other things are all other uses that would then be permitted in a Plain Business commercial that are not now. So beauty salons, food markets, banks, all those sorts of things would additionally be permitted that aren't permitted now.
But then wouldn't they also have to furnish their own parking too on that small lot?
Yeah, given that it's only about 0.6 or 0.7 acres, you don't really have a large property to work with, so it does limit what you could put there. We're not talking about a very extensive commercial or retail use. It would have to be some small, maybe fast food might fit there, or some other small shop or beauty shop or like that, because you have to be able to meet our standards still for the commercial zoning district for building, parking, landscaping, et cetera. So there are some options there, but it would be relatively limited, and certainly it would be essentially useless if it would remain in the Plain Business Industrial zoning district.
And just to clarify too, tonight, we're just talking about the rezone, right? So there's nothing actually planned yet for this. This is strictly just a change of classification that has more. Is it fair to say it couldn't be developed as it currently is now with Plain Business Industrial, right? There's nothing.
If it remained Plain Business Industrial, it's essentially a useless piece of property. The residual piece, because it doesn't meet any of our requirements for lot sizes and things like that. And really, from an industrial perspective, there's nothing really you could fit on that site.
Be the smallest factory in the world, right?
It's too small for that.
Yep.
So this does allow them some ability to look at some additional options for the site, and then also he's looking to also capitalize on the existing Econo Lodge building. There may be some other things he looks at additionally putting in that building too. So nothing planned tonight. We're not approving his plans. We're not approving any project specifically. This just would put the rezone in place so that he can start looking at some of those options.
Okay.
But are there any potential adverse, what I'd call, I don't want to say adverse, that's not a good word, but that's a pretty prominent piece of property. Suppose they tear down the current hotel and make this one big property. What are some of the things that could be done with it?
But any commercial use you can imagine would be permitted on that property.
Okay.
So, if they tore it down now to put in another industrial building, they theoretically could do that. It probably would still require variances, but right now, if they were to tear it down, we'd be looking at an industrial use, which probably, looking at what's around them, wouldn't make as much sense. I mean, as you go to the west, I guess really, when you look at Garofalo Boulevard, that's kind of on their western border, that's kind of the dividing line between what's commercial and then it becomes industrial as you go further west. So it kind of makes more sense for this to kind of stay on the commercial side of things.
So could they, if they tore this down, then would they have enough room to put something like we got out here on the south side of Speedway there, the little shopping plaza right there, or little business?
Potentially, it could be a small
like
strip
that.
center or something like that.
Yeah, strip center.
Yep.
With that small, if you chop off the unused piece of property, that would have to be approved before we could approve any kind of plans. I'm concerned that try to sticking another building there, there's not a lot of land there.
Well, yeah, I mean, they still have to meet regardless of what the rezone, they still have to meet all the standards. So
Right.
all the setbacks, all the landscaping, all the parking requirements, that would still have to be met regardless of the rezone or not. So yeah, it would still, if they were to propose a new building there, it would come through the development plan process through the plan commission.
Just the question is, do we feel like it's a better use as industrial or as commercial, essentially?
Right.
That's really the question we're trying to answer tonight. At least the first half of the question.
Yep.
So. Any additional questions for Ben?
Is most of the hotels in commercial?
Yeah, primarily, other than like this little stretch here, as you kind of look down Garofalo, everything that's commercial retail and the hotels there, they're all in Plain Business Industrial right now. But usually you would see this in a commercial zoning district.
Oh, okay. Okay, what I was wondering was all our other hotels, are they in a commercial?
Primarily, yes, other than in this little area right here.
Okay.
Any public comment this time? Okay. Rob, will have you read the ordinance on first reading.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. Ordinance 2022-01 concerns the rezone of property and amending the zoning map of the city. The petitioner, Golden Eagle Lodging Management LLC, filed its application to rezone before the City Lebanon Plan Commission, seeking to rezone approximately 2.68 acres located at 1245 West State Road 32, Lebanon, Indiana, and that's described in Exhibits A and B. To rezone from planned business and industrial, as Mr. Bontrager indicated, to planned business commercial. Pursuant to Indiana Code, the City of Lebanon Plan Commission conducted a required public hearing on December 20th, 2021, and voted 6-0 to send a favorable recommendation of the rezoning petition of the property, and certified its recommendation to the legislative body, the City of Lebanon Council, on December 21, 2021. Again, therefore, the petitioner, Golden Eagle Lodging Management, is the owner of the property. It seeks to have its property, as described in Exhibits A and B, rezoned from planned business industrial to planned business commercial. And from and after this date, if adopted, the official zoning map of the City of Lebanon shall be changed to rezone the subject property from planned business industrial to planned business commercial.
Okay. Now the ordinance has been read on first reading. Any additional comments, questions from council? Any additional public comment? Okay. Ordinance 2022-01 has been read on first reading, so we will take that up at our next council meeting for second reading. Thank you, council. All right, next up, Ben, hoping to go for Ordinance 2022-02. This is council to consider rezone for 129 West Camp Street. This is for Dr. Cashone's office.
Yeah, this is another existing building here, and actually the history here, this property has been a dentist's office since the 80s, and they actually received a use variance from the Lebanon Plan Commission in 1988 to operate a dentist's office on this site, which is what has primarily been since that time. Recently, Dr. Cashion reached out to our office and mentioned that he had some other users that were looking at some available space in his building to operate a beauty salon. Right now, it's zoned single family, so anything other than a dentist's office would require additional approvals either by the Board of Zoning Appeals, or in this case, we worked with Dr. Cashion and decided it made more sense to actually go ahead and rezone it to planned business commercial, so we can kind of skip the step of having getting everything approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals anytime some small change like that happened. So that's what you see here tonight is rezone from single family residential SF2 to planned business commercial. We did review the site. Again, I said it's like a two-chair beauty salon that's looking to go in there. We did review to make sure there's enough parking to meet all the parking requirements there, and that's all good to go. Merely tonight, we'd get that rezone so the use would be permitted, and then at that point, then they can move forward with the beauty salon in the available space. Again, the site's limited to what you can do with it, and with the existing building that's there, there's only a certain amount of space, a certain amount of parking. This is not a very big site. It's about a half acre. So even if somebody decided in the future to tear this building down and redevelop it, we're not talking about a substantial commercial use to go here because it's really only a half acre you're working with here. So while the full range of commercial uses would be permitted, you're limited because then you're having to meet all the requirements for the thoroughfare overlay district along Lebanon Street and also our setbacks and landscape standards. So in terms of what this could be if it was the dentist's office, it's really limited because of the size of the site. But by doing this rezone, this does allow Dr. Cashion some additional flexibility to be able to move in a beauty salon, or I believe there's an insurance agent or a real estate agent that has an office in there to be able to do things like that without having to come back to get approval for every time, since those uses are listed different in separate categories on the use table. So that's what I've got for you, and happy to answer your questions.
Any questions?
Does moving to this type of classification, I know you said the parking would be adequate, but does access have any change?
They're not proposing any site improvements as a part of this. They have some existing space in the building and enough parking to the front of it to accommodate it. So it has access off of Lebanon Street, but there's not any additional site improvements being proposed. And there's not necessarily any that we would require just by adding a user.
That's what I was wondering, if there's a, okay.
Are the rest of the properties around it still single family? Because I know there's kind of a bit of a commercial kind of zone that's kind of developed there a little bit with some offices and.
You've got a few adaptations of those properties that have taken place, but I believe there are still some to the south that are still used residentially. I believe they're rentals, but they are used residentially. But I believe that First Stone owns the property next door to the south. Is that correct? Yes. So there is kind of this transition that's happening in adaptive reuse of those existing structures for small commercial uses that is taking place. So this may be the first step in, as that transition continues to occur, this transition may take place further to the south as well.
Okay.
So size of the lot aside, would a gas station be a permitted use?
It'd be a permitted use, but I can tell you there's not a chance in the world you'd be able to fit one there.
With this property,
With
but
this property,
if you
yes.
aggregated and could change
You would
zoning?
need at least an acre to even start to talk about putting a small gas station in there, so this is half that size.
Can you put on the overhead, guys, can you put the map again for us, please? Yep, there it goes here.
Just you see the small building you see here with a small parking lot out front, and keep in mind, like for a gas station, the canopy also has to meet setback requirements, which would make it virtually impossible to put anything there
Right.
for that type of use. But could somebody put a really small office like that here? They could, but from a commercial perspective, then your parking requirements increase, and it gets much, much more difficult if you're redeveloping. The other thing you have to keep in mind is with the thoroughfare overlay district, anytime somebody would want to scrape the site and redo it, now you've got all the thoroughfare overlay district buffer standards
So
and
does that
landscape
make a
standards,
difference
so it
to
would
you guys?
make it very difficult to try to redevelop the site into something other than what it is now.
Does the frequency of that?
I know it's close to there's at least it used to be an old eye doctor. Is that the one that's right next to it, the eye doctor's office, do you know? Or is there a house, residential, and then the eye doctor's old eye doctor's office?
I don't remember
I'm
exactly
talking
where it is, Steve. Do you know?
That's
The eye doctor?
There are 4 structures on
that little stretch there? Uh-huh. One single
Somebody living there that's
family.
next to the eye doctor. He's a
Right, but across, so, I mean, there's obviously, what is it, the pharmacy.
Walmart.
No.
Or Walgreens.
Walgreens, and then right across here, and then,
Chiropractor.
right, that's,
Eye doctor's down here.
yeah, down this way, right? So I was wondering if these houses in between are residential, or if those are commercial, you know what I mean? Here, you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Well,
You're saying the properties just to the south,
Yeah.
if they're residential
Yes.
of the property?
There is one of the 4
One of
that
the
are along
4
that
that
stretch.
are-
One of those is residential.
Okay.
Again, Dr. Cascio's
Oh.
real estate company owns the one directly next door to him, so that one is not residential.
Okay,
And then the chiropractor's office, I think, is 2 down
okay.
from them as well. So,
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I understood how the
Yeah.
flow worked.
Can I clarify?
Yep, please do.
Make sure it's understood that where the beauty parlor wants to go in was an insurance broker and has been for some time. So we're not changing, we're not adding another office to the building. We're just changing its use of that office from insurance brokerage to a salon. So and the present zoning does not allow a salon to go there. That's why we have a sufficient number of parking spots to meet the requirements, but it doesn't meet the zoning situation for the salon.
so it did allow the brokerage there to be in there for office,
Correct.
right? But in order to have the salon, you have to change the zoning.
Correct.
Yeah, or get a BZA, or get an appeal there, and then,
Yes, we've had 3 offices, 3 different businesses in that building for at least 25, 30 years.
yeah.
So there's presently an accountant that's in the building also. My office occupies the north side of the building. And there's 2 other offices to the south.
Gotcha.
So there's no other change otherwise.
Okay.
Any other question I can answer?
Any additional questions for Dr. Cashone?
And not that I don't want a beauty salon there, I was just questioning for, in the future, say, 40 years from now, like, if they were asking about a gas station, if things, change hands in the future? And, do we want like a fast food restaurant there? Like, I don't think we want that right across from the park. So I just think that that's why, I just want to make sure what all the zoning was and what was right next door and stuff. So not that I don't want the beauty shop there, because I think that'd be great, so.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, any additional questions or discussion? Okay, Rob, do you mind reading the ordinance for us, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. Ordinance 2022-02 concerns the rezone of property and amending the zoning map of the city. Petitioner First Stone Properties LLC filed its application for rezone before the City of Lebanon Plan Commission, seeking again to rezone approximately .53 acres that's described on Exhibits A and B from single-family residential SF2 zoning classification to planned business commercial. Pursuant to Indiana Code, the City of Lebanon Plan Commission conducted its required public hearing on December 20th, 2021, and voted 6-0 to send a favorable recommendation of the rezoning petition of the property and certified its favorable recommendation to this legislative body, the Common Council of Lebanon, on December 21st, 2021. Therefore, the petitioner, First Stone Properties, again, is the owner of the property. The property described in Exhibits A and B would be rezoned from SF2 zoning classification to planned business commercial. From and after the date of the adoption of this ordinance, the official zoning map of the City of Lebanon shall be changed to rezone the property from single-family residential SF2 to planned business commercial zoning classification.
Thank you, Rob. So ordinance 2022-02 has been read on first reading. Again, we'll take that up at our next meeting. Any final questions, comments on that from council? Okay. All right, that concludes what I have for new business. Is there anything from the council? Okay, move on to claims then. We'll entertain a motion concerning the claims.
Move to approve the claims.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the claims from Councilman Wheat and a second from Councilman Copeland. All those there say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, our next city council meeting will be Monday, January 24th at 7:15 p.m. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Nope.
Announcement.
Nope.
Council, we need to depose me as president, come up with a new council president for 2022. I meant to get that dealt with last week, and we didn't get that done. So those that have an interest in being council president for 2022, please let me know, and then we'll have to have probably a session to get some board appointments done too. So get with me if you're interested.
Okay, we will put that on the agenda for the next meeting. So again, the one time I don't ask for announcements or discussion, there's something. So any additional announcements or discussion? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make
Motion we adjourn.
I'll give it to Sierra.
Thanks.
Motion to adjourn from Sierra. Is there a second? Dick?
Second. Dick.
Second. Brent beat him on the second, actually. So we motion a second. All say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thanks very much.
Didn't get it to us. Something's going on.